I'll try not to go into a rant here.
Well, you can if you want.
But, well, I probably will then. I've always felt that there was something inherently wrong about people having a position by virtue of birth, the notion of royal blood. I think it's nonsense. But I think one was just accepting of the monarchy. When we had the Queen was always there. The Queen was part of the furniture. The pageantry seemed to work with the Queen in a way. But I find myself looking at our King and Queen and feeling an visceral rage, which just seems to come from nowhere. Yes, I look at them and I think, how very dare you? And there's a kind of incongruence between these individuals. It's partly to do with that. I think it's also partly to do with the utter state of the country at the moment. Public money being spent on this enormous, great big junket. When people are struggling to feed their families, people are struggling to heat their houses, it feels wrong. And I think what it's done for me is it's just thrown into relief the horrendous inequalities and lack of social justice in this country. I think Brexit was perhaps the catalyst. Brexit in many ways was based on the same faux patriotism that the monarchy gets its sort of oxygen from, if you like.
Well, let me clarify that for the benefit of people listening. I know you're clear about what you mean, but you mean, because I think that the Queen was pretty gutted by Brexit. I mean, you have to read the runes and read between the lines, and Charles has made a couple of interventions that would suggest he also understands the idiocy of it as a national policy. But you're talking about how it was won. So the priority of flags and feelings over facts and evidence, that lends itself to Brexit and the royal family very neatly, doesn't it? People who are persuaded to care more about flags and feelings than they are about facts and figures, for example, are going to be likely supporters of both Brexit and the royal family.
Yes, I think so. And I think Brexit and people's support for the monarchy are predicated on something which is not progressive. It's all about nostalgia. This idea of sovereignty is all about nostalgia. I actually saw Leavers talk about, well, Britannia used to rule the waves.
Yes.
You know, wake up. We're in the 21st century. This is a country in decline. This is a country where there is a bigger gap between the haves and the have-nots than there's ever been. We have less social mobility, less opportunity for people to get on in life. And I feel as if the monarchy represents the apex of this class system, which is an obstacle to people utilising their talents. It takes an awful lot away from society because people are not able to get on and to make a contribution because they're just stuck with trying to survive. And
it is odd, isn't it? But it gets odder the longer you look at it. I think that's why the phrase, what was it, neutral pragmatist is the most persuasive. The longer you look at it, the madder it gets. So most of us probably subconsciously don't look at it that long or look at it that hard. And there are things to enjoy if you don't look at it all too closely.
I think also we weren't necessarily aware of all these ridiculous, archaic rituals, and they feel so incredibly incongruent with the values that matter to us now. Maybe it was different in 1952, but I just do not think that this stuff works. And I think, you know, bringing in people of colour and people from different religions to try and bring it up to date, it just doesn't seem to work because fundamentally it's all incredibly archaic. You were talking about William the Conqueror and the Duke of Westminster's comments. It's actually demonstrable that people in this country, if they have a name that's derived from a Norman name, are better off financially still, more than nearly 1,000 years later, than people who don't have Norman names.
Oh, it is nearly 1,000. I got my sums wrong earlier. Sorry.
It just goes down. Well, that was actually me doing the maths, not you.
No, but you got it right. I said nearly 1,100 years, but it's actually nearly 1,000 because it'd be 2066, wouldn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Sorry.
But actually goes down the centuries. And
I've seen that research. It is incredible. Because
Grosvenor
Grosvenor is originally a Norman name as well. So there's a dichotomy here that I share, which is, and in fact, I should tell you that the text you got, quite a few actually. Go, Jenny. This is exactly how I'm feeling. Thank you, says Trish. And what this woman is saying is completely inarguable. You don't get those texts into so this lady's position is just inarguable. So you're obviously right. And the history of deference and worse is absolutely baked into the modern monarchy. And yet people can simultaneously understand that and not care as much as you do. That's the weird bit, isn't it?
I think one final thing, though. I mean, I don't want to sort of monopolise.
Feel free.
You have other people.
But a male caller would never say that, Jenny. Make of that what you will.
You're probably right. I think another thing that is probably relevant, or is probably the reason why I feel so angry about this, is that the institutions that we all used to rely on all feel as if they no longer work. We've seen in the last few years, it doesn't feel as if we have a benign establishment anymore. We've seen this appalling unprincipled behaviour and a decline in standards on the part of our political leaders. Even things like letting down people overseas, what's happening currently in Sudan, what happened to the way people were betrayed in Afghanistan. We used to have stature in the world and Britishness. One thing that was always associated with it was fair play. And I just don't see that anymore. And I see the monarchy as being in bed with the establishment. And I really feel so radicalised by this. I feel as if we have to tear down all these institutions. We need a grown-up written constitution. We need standards which are written down. We don't need all these ridiculous conventions and prerogatives and all this fudge that can be exploited by bad actors.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm very glad you said fudge there. I had a momentary glimmer of panic because you clearly had got underway.